Let's do it. What is going on, you guys? It is Tai here. We're back with another episode for season 2 of With Love with Tai. And I have somebody who I adore. I have seen her on every freaking carpet. I have seen her killing it. I have seen her just doing so many things. You've known in the beauty space, the wellness space, or if you need a little pick me up on Instagram. We are here with my girl, Miss Tai Beauchamp. I'm so excited to have you, my love.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm blessed. I'm great.
You look
I'm
amazing,
grateful.
by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, we were just talking a little bit off camera about just like being intentional with time.
Yeah.
And I was telling you how like there's just so many people I've interviewed this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think my theme is being more intentional. But I feel like when you begin to go through those stages, there's a lot of stuff you have to kind of like kill off and grieve.
Oh, yeah.
So in order for you to have gotten to this place for yourself, to be intentional with time, what did you have to kind of let go of, kill, get rid of, and just grieve about? For
Oh,
you to
my
really
goodness.
Get to this space.
So many things. Well, I turned 48 this year.
You already turned it, or you are turning
I
it?
turned 48.
When was your birthday?
January 7th.
Okay. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I just literally stopped celebrating February 7th. So I celebrated for a month this year. I don't typically.
Okay.
Full transparency, I was in Cabo for Christmas and for New Year's, and I had an accident. I fell in the shower, freak accident.
Oh my God.
I had ended up 10 stitches in my face in Mexico with a serious concussion that if the fall and if I were injured on my temple, I would literally an inch behind, I would have died. And if it were my eye, an inch forward, I would have lost my eye. So, I literally woke up after having this accident and this concussion and, felt truly grateful for life while my brain was shaking on the inside of my head.
Oh my goodness.
I felt super grateful for life. So this year I decided to celebrate for the entire month of January.
I feel like sometimes those experiences really change your perspective on how you're living.
Yeah.
I did not go through something like that specifically, but I witnessed so many deaths. So my mother passing, my grandmother passing, and then my stepdad, he passed in front of me and my mom.
I am so sorry. Wow.
Thank you. And for me, when that experience happened, I was obviously saddened, but it just reminded me that I need to live life to the fullest and be grateful.
Yeah.
Like one of my girlfriends, she always tells me to thank God for every little thing. Thank God I can see. Thank God I can breathe. Thank God I can smell and have these senses. What is something that you are thanking God for now that, many may not see it as like the obvious that we may take for granted?
So listen, Tai, like seriously, and I don't think it's an accident, Tai Squared is happening right here, even though I'm TAI. There are so many things that I think we take for granted, and things that I can actually grieve and let go of, recognizing that there's a blessing on the other side of it.
Right.
When I think about even my career, right? I think about some of the things that I experienced early on in terms of success, quote unquote success. And I like to say quote unquote success because I don't necessarily even believe in the term success. Okay. But, the achievements that I had very early in my life that I think ultimately early in my life arrested time for me, right? I was a beauty director at 25, the first African-American and youngest in history. To have all of that pressure at 25, a time was arrested, right? So there were certain things that I had to catch up to actually before I was actually even really ready for it, right? So now that I'm able to, as it's been said, reclaim my time, I have a different appreciation for it. One, I recognize the value of time. I recognize the value of my presence. Yeah. I recognize, and not just because I'm so great, it's because it's really God in me. And so, I want to show up with that, in that with intention. There are so many things that I think, I've had businesses, I've left businesses, I've created new businesses. There have been relationships that I poured into that then I decided weren't, but that's the joy of life. It is the joy of life and having those experiences. I think now for me, where I'm super intentional, and I love that you use that word, is how I connect with people. I don't like small talk. So that means that I don't go to certain places and spaces.
Yeah.
I want to really exchange from a heart-centered place, from a spiritual place with people. Not that everyone requires that or every, encounter mandates that. But I like to be intentional for that because I feel like that's how I grow. That's how I learn. That's how I expand. That's how I experience the presence of God, right? Through those exchanges. So what I like to say is that in this middle stage and middle ages, because these are the middle ages for me, I just recognize the power of time and I like to honor it.
We kick off our show with the first segment called Love Like Mama.
Love Like Mama, yes.
And this is really just setting the emotional tone. So my mother was big on love, which is, essentially how we got the name With Love with Tai Cole. And, I think the one thing that we need to do is reflect on the ways that we love. So my first one for you is, when you think about the way that you love today, what parts of that come from the woman who raised you or people who raised you? And what parts did you have to teach yourself?
Oh, that's a good question, Tai. So I was raised by my grandmothers, both my mother's mother, my father's mother, and my mother.
Okay.
I think the love that they all planted and instilled within me was the love of community and people. I realized that my love for people and humanity really came from my grandmothers and how they nurtured their own communities. My grandmother, my father's mother, was an evangelist, and she literally had people at her house all the time. Like it was never short of such and such is coming in from the Caribbean or Haiti or Africa, and they need a place to stay, and they were there. So I picked that up. Okay. Like my house literally is a house that people come and chill at all the time.
So you like that?
With the right people, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Because I'm
it's not an open door
case by case basis.
Listen, because she is protective now too, in honoring of that.
Hello.
So I think I got in the love of sisterhood and friends. My grandmother and both my mother, their tribe was and is centering for them. So I got that, and that I think inspired me to, or actually no, they sent me to an all-girls high school, and then I went to Spelman College. So those things really nurtured my belief in women. And then the love that I had to teach myself, and that I'm teaching myself right now, is that everyone is deserving of your love. And we have to show up in that with intention and purity. Right. But that doesn't mean that everyone is deserving of your time. No. So that's what I'm teaching myself now.
I like that you broke it down between love and time. I think
two different
times
things.
We encompass that, where it's like, I think everything for the most part has its own silo. Like my intention, my time, my love, even like just like myself, my being. Like each thing requires its own silo, because you can't drain that. Yeah. Do you get drained easily? My energy can get drained when I'm around so many people, because I give so much, and it kind of wears and tears on me.
That's real.
How do you protect that for yourself? Because you're front facing on multiple carpets. I have seen you. You're working the room. You're smiling. You're poised. You're on. Like we're on in those rooms. Even if we do have these kind of exchanges, when we're in a certain space, we're on. So how do you make sure to protect yourself, your inner self, your core, when you are off, when you're always on?
Yeah, well, I don't feel like I'm always on anymore, to be honest. I've become a lot more selective with what I say yes to. Okay. That comes sometimes at a cost, but I'm okay with that cost. Like I'm not in the stage or state of my life where I feel like I have to be in every room in order for people to see me. I actually don't function like that at all. I say no to most rooms in this stage of my life. But I think I am an introvert, and people find that hard to believe. So I spend a lot of time by myself at home, quiet, listening to gospel, writing, reading, that's it. And then being around the people that really know and love me, cooking. But I certainly don't show up everywhere anymore.
Okay. I'm learning to do that even more for myself.
Yeah.
I try to move like Beyonce now.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, you know, she kind of
Beyonce is
talks
nowhere except for at her concert, honey.
nowhere. She's only where she needs to be when there's a
Exactly.
check. And
Exactly.
I operate like Miss Knowles.
Exactly.
She's amazing.
Exactly.
You know, what did being loved well look like in your household growing up? Because I think we as people, there's different forms of how people show up and they love you, even when it comes to parents.
Yeah.
Like my mom's way of loving me was affection and gifts. My dad, and quality time. My dad was like acts of service in different ways. So what did being loved well look like? Like, was it spoken, shown, or just silently understood?
I think that, so I grew up in 3 different households. So
Okay.
I think that's also, I think that inspired actually how I showed up in the world, how I was loved by each household. So I had my father's family's home, my grandparents. I had my grandmother Mary. For those who have followed me for a long time, they've heard about me talk about my grandmother Mary. I took care of her for 13 years alongside my mom. She was unwell, so I was a caregiver. I became a caregiver at 28. The same year I started my business. My business will be 20 years old this year, this March, actually. Thank you. Or yes, amen.
Yeah.
And then my mom was a young mom. So the way that she showed love was different. I think that each of them, you know, so at my grandparents' house, it was words of affirmation. It was hugs and touch. At my Mary's house, Mary, it was quality time.
Okay.
And, you know, literally nurturing me in a way that helped me to feel my inside and know who I was. My grandmother, Mary, was incredible.
Yeah.
I started reading very early. And she had a lot of wisdom and understanding because she herself was a striver. You know, she had moved up from the South to Brooklyn and, you know, lived with her grandmother and her uncle and went to college and graduate school as an adult before she met my grandfather and had children. And she was a striver. So she saw something in me. My grandmother, you know, exposed me to everything. So I was in oratory classes when I was 3 and 4 years old because I could read, but I couldn't speak. Little did she know that I would become a speaker later in life, and she didn't even get the chance to see that because of her illness. So my grandmother, like quality time, and she really just nurtured me. With my mother, it was gifts because that's what she knew, right? So I think each of those helped me to understand that love looks different. Love can feel different.
Yeah.
And I think now as an adult, what it's helped me to understand is to appreciate the way people know how to love you. But let me just tell you about what I also know. Appreciate how they know how to love you, but I also am very intentional about helping people that I want to love me the way that I need to be loved by telling them that works, this doesn't work. Right. So
and being honest about it.
So love is different. But I think, you know, foundationally, it's really understanding how expansive love can be. And that's a true reflection of how God loves us.
You said something that resonated with me. So I actually just wrote a piece for Business Insider about this. I was basically my mom's primary caregiver when she was passing away. So I was handling every bill, every medical bill. Mind you, you know, there's a lot of work here for us in LA. So I'm flying to LA, flying back to New York every other few weeks. And you're doing all of these things because we're entrepreneurs. So you're doing all of these things while you're trying to show up for them. And it can be taxing, but you love them so much that through all of that, you're showing up for somebody who you know needs the help. And you'll do it even if you are so tired. When she passed away, it felt like a release, but I also felt like I not proved how much I loved her, but showed her like, we've always said through thick and thin, I'm going to be there for you. And now you kind of can feel that before you descend to heaven. So what was that relationship like for you when you were a primary caregiver for your grandmother? What was that like for you both, where you're handling everything and it's like a new way of how you both can love each other?
It was wild. I mean, I'll be honest, it was shared. My mom and I were her primary caregivers, so I'm grateful that I had support and partnership in that. And I'll be honest, I think I don't talk about this often, and I don't know if I've ever articulated it this way. But my grandmother's illness was truly a connective tissue for my mother and I. And I think it brought a different level of healing and understanding to even our relationship. So I think that was one God's plans and intention.
Correct.
My grandmother was sick for 13 years.
Oh my goodness.
In terms of, my grandmother was nonverbal. It was a very difficult, so it wasn't a collaborative situation. She had a tragic accident where she fell and broke her neck, and then ultimately never returned to her home because she ended up being hospitalized, and then we had to get long-term care for her. But my mother and I visited her every single day. One of us visited her every single day. At the time, my office and my team was in New York, and I was going back and forth from New York to New Jersey. But it did feel, it's a crazy experience to have to change the diaper of the person who changed you. It's a crazy experience to have to show up in a way that is tender and nurturing to an adult who gave you all those tools. And it was life-changing. It was life-changing for me. It certainly taught me a new type of love, and I really did learn unconditional love through that, because there were days that I was at the nursing home. My grandmother sometimes didn't speak, most times didn't speak. She would come out and speak on occasion, like maybe once a year, sometimes twice a year.
Yeah.
And so I imagine what it felt like for her and what it feels like for a parent to give to a child and not even know, that they appreciate it. So I showed up like that with my grandmother constantly. So it did teach me a new type of love. And I'm grateful for it. It was truly an honor. Yeah. It was painful. I remember, wanting to release her and praying to God that he gave her peace. Not because it was so taxing on my mom and I, but because I wanted peace for my grandmother who had given so much.
Because you love her so much. It's like
absolutely.
Whatever that peace looks like from him, you're gonna wish that for them.
1,000%. So actually, when she passed, 13 years later, I don't even know how she lasted that long, to be honest. And there were many times over the course of the 13 years, probably more than 13, when we were told to prepare ourselves for her going home. I was happy. I think the other thing is that when you're a caregiver like that, you're grieving the loss of the person in real time while you're in it. And especially if it's Alzheimer's or dementia and, they don't recognize you, they don't know that you're there. There are so many lessons and levels in that. Yeah. But I do think that experience, and I don't know if I've ever thought about it this way, I do think that being a caregiver to her brought me more into my own humanity and my relationship with God and an appreciation for what life looks like.
I love that. Yeah. Women to me are truly the most beautiful creatures.
We are.
And y'all have...
Especially Black women, let me tell you. Yes,
I was going to say Black women.
1,000%.
Like, there's just something about Black women that I just get so excited about. But my love for Black women came from my mother because she loved herself, but I would always remind her of how gorgeous she was, how pretty she was. Like, I would just see her moving in spaces. And even my friends, what's one thing, because you Black women have so much parts to love. What's one thing a woman has that nobody else has that you think she should lean in and love more out loud?
If I'm honest, I think now in this stage, I think it's intuition. Our spirits speak to us in a different way. We're the bearers of life, where we bring forth life, we nurture life and light in a different way. And I think our inner knowing, there's an inner knowing that all of us women have. I actually remember it now, even in my youth. I remember moments where I felt like, ooh, this means this. And I didn't know how to listen to it.
Right.
So what I would say for all women, all ages, all stages of life, listen to your inner knowing. Some people call it intuition. Some people call it spirit. Some people call it your gut. Your inner knowing is, I think, where God whispers to you.
Right.
And oftentimes, because we're trying to, respond to people or make other people happy, or trying to balance the conditions of life and the terms and the things that we have going on.
Yeah.
we ignore the inner knowing. Listen to your inner knowing. I think that is truly what makes us most dynamic, regardless of what the package looks like, regardless of whether or not I'm wearing sweats or not, regardless of whether or not my hair is done or not, regardless of whether or not you have the job all put together, regardless of whether or not the finances are in order, and sometimes even regardless of whether or not the situation with relationships are right. Your inner knowing will always bring you back to who you are.
I love that. How did the woman in your life model rest, if at all? Because
when I see
they
didn't.
Okay, because I'm like,
didn't. Oh, absolutely
girl, I see
not.
you moving.
They didn't. I don't move like that anymore. I think that, I think the other thing about social media is that it gives people the perception that they're seeing all the things.
Yeah.
It's only a sliver of my life.
A small sliver, like this.
I honor rest. If I show you my phone right now, at 9:30 it says go to bed.
Okay. So it's consistently okay. I love that.
I don't do it all the time,
but you have it in place.
But I have it in place. And I think that also the other thing is that we define rest as something a little bit more narrow. We think of rest as like laying down or doing nothing or allowing your mind to wander or to find peace. But, rest for some people might actually be a little bit more active.
Yeah.
Rest to someone might be holding a baby, and you might find that restful for you. I think it's understanding what rest looks like to you, and what that feels like to you. And also what fuels you. And what I've learned is that there are different things that fuel me, and there are different things that energize me in different ways. And what I try and do is be intentional and open to how I'm going to get that.
Okay.
And what that looks like in that time. I'm in my era right now. This week, I would probably say, is a week of making things happen.
Okay.
I have a event. I have Morning Mindset with Tai in partnership with Pattern this week. So
I saw.
Thank you. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited about it. This will be so. I'm gearing up. I don't lie to myself about what is required of me and necessary in that time. And I don't compromise that either.
Right.
So I put things into place where I know that I have to move like this during the day. I'll be on today until 6 p.m. But then at 7:30 p.m., I'm checking out. Yeah. So I think it's having healthy understanding around what it is that's going to actually energize and fuel you.
And some boundaries too.
Yeah, those, of course.
Growing up, were you taught to prioritize being loved or being respected?
That's a great question. What I know I was taught was to be a person of integrity.
Okay.
I don't know if ever it was explicitly shared of whether or not it was love or respect. It was just more about do what is right, do what you know is right. Yeah. So in some ways, I think I was taught to recognize the inner knowing. On the flip, what I think I did versus what I was taught, and I think it came naturally because I grew up in 3 different households. And I mean, I really split time. I lived with my father's family during the week, Monday through Friday. And on the weekends, I either went to my mom's house or my grandmother's house, and sometimes both, because my mom worked and went to college and graduate school. So she had support from my grandmother. And so I do think that having 3 different households, all rooted in love, but with different rules, made me a little bit of a people pleaser, because I had to go into these spaces and recognize what was required of me here versus what was required of me here. So case in point, my father's mother was a stay-at-home mom. She washed clothes every day. So when I was there as a child, I used a new washcloth and a new towel every single day. And when I took my clothes off, I dropped them there by the top of the stairs before she would go down to the basement to wash clothes in the washroom. When I moved to my mom and my grandmother's house full time, they were like, you don't do that. You put that in a hamper.
Yeah.
Right. So I had different rules, and I had to understand, without being told explicitly, don't do that here, don't do this here, how to accommodate and show up in those spaces. So I do think that what that built for me was an awareness. Okay. And so even now I have awareness when I go into spaces. I'm able to assess what's happening there very quickly. and then decide for myself how I want to show up in it.
Okay.
Now, the difference is as a seasoned person, I decide how I want to show up there or if I want to show up there.
Right.
As a child, when I was younger, I just had to show up. Yeah, I had to show up. Yeah. And I had to figure that out.
I love that.
Yeah, so I don't know if there was ever an explicit, show up with love and show up with respect. It was just show up honorably.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was the first time in your career where you thought, I belong in this room? Like, what was your
that's a great question.
Stamp of, okay, this is my approval. I should be here.
That's a great question. That's a great question. I had a lot of early success.
Yeah.
A lot of early success. And I'm honestly still unpacking that, because now from where I sit, I can't measure up against that early success anymore, because those were particular times when, being the first and or the only, and sometimes both, there was no blueprint or roadmap for me and many things. I mean, becoming an entrepreneur. I remember when I left magazines and said I was starting my business, and people are like, "You're doing what? Yeah. You're sitting here at Hearst, where they adore you, they're championing you, they're supporting you, they're nurturing you," and I had all of that there, but I didn't feel like that was for me. So oftentimes I tell people this, and this is interesting. I actually felt a lot more othered than people would think, and not because I was made to feel that way, as much as I realize now, even with the privilege of occupying a lot of these spaces, right, I felt different. So I had the external packaging. I was I was poised. I could speak. I wore the red lip. I liked beauty. But spiritually, I felt bankrupt in some of those spaces. Am I a beauty girl? I like beauty, but the industry at the time wasn't the most loving and most kind. So that felt antithetical to who I am. So I think now, I am probably just getting to really embodying my full self, and recognizing that my full self is not only, I don't like to just say enough, that's the principle. Yeah. The rooms aren't the principle for me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't, or the interview, or the conversation with, an executive at a TV network. That's not the principle for me. The principle for me is saying Tai Beauchamp when I encounter them, and or the person at the coffee shop. I'm the principal. So how do I show up as me no matter where I am? The rooms matter less to me.
I love that.
Yeah.
We go to our second segment called the healing question.
Okay.
This is going to be real good.
Let me hear.
We unpacking.
Okay, let's unpack.
Now, you've been a trailblazer to many of us within the media and beauty space. And I know we discussed, how you even define the word success. Like, you don't really, it's not really your thing. Mm-hmm. But, what did everyone interpret that cost you emotion that people never saw? And you kind of touched on it a little bit, but.
Well, so here's what I will say. And I celebrate so many of my sisters who have come alongside me or behind me in this space, especially with social media.
Right.
But that wasn't the holy grail for me ever. And so I find that I think the key for anyone who is seeking to evolve and or become is, one, recognize that we're all doing that.
Right.
So you're going to be doing that whether or not you're the assistant or you're the CEO. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The process is still the process,
regardless of where you are in the hierarchy.
And so it depends on, it's up to you to decide how you're going to use where you are. And I'll give you a case in point that I think is really apropos. There's a person on my team that is working with me, and she actually interned with me when I was at Vibe Vixen. And she's worked with me for 20 years over the course.
Yeah.
And she's a wonderful example. She's an in-between stage and phase right now in her life because she doesn't have full-time employment. But I always challenge people to, even when it's not the package that you desire it to be, how are you going to show up? Are you going to show up, willing to go and do all of the things? Because that's practice for when that thing comes.
Yeah.
And so I have probably a highly philosophical way of looking at it. It's like, some people might say, go hard in the paint, show up fully, be your full self.
Yeah.
And don't necessarily do it with the expectation that this outcome has to look like this, or this is going to happen. I'm only doing this if.
Okay.
Are you willing to do it anyway?
Yeah.
So.
And also sounds like you're betting on yourself.
You're betting on yourself, and you're also answering the calling.
Yeah. You don't want to miss your blessing.
You don't want to miss your blessing, and you don't want to also be tethered to it because it has to look a certain way.
I feel like I needed that today. Something had happened to me earlier, and I was like, okay, I'm a little annoyed by it, but then I saw something my friend posted, and it was like, don't be afraid or upset about the detour. That doesn't mean you're derailed from where you were going.
1,000%.
That just means that you are shifting into a different space, into a different trajectory that doesn't look like what you thought it was supposed to have looked like, and that's okay. Because he wants you to think bigger.
Yeah.
Wherever you were thinking, it's not saying it's small, but he's like, let's make it even grander.
And it might not be bigger, it just might be different.
Oh, different.
I think the other thing that I find with, and I have a lot of young people in my life that I love and that I speak to that, that I learn from, that I teach, and vice versa, right? Sometimes, I think what happens right now, and this is just my own experience,
right?
When I was an editor and an editor-in-chief, we didn't have social media. So, and actually as a journalist, you didn't talk about all the things that you did.
No.
You didn't talk about it. Like, of course I was living a really, really beautiful life experience, but you didn't talk about it because that would have been gauche. That would have been, you don't do it. So I think
it was like taboo at the time.
Exactly. So I think so much of how we live today, and I think the driver for a lot of people is thinking it's bigger. It needs to be seen more. I had this conversation. Who was I talking to yesterday? I was talking to Bose yesterday. And I said to her, we were talking about something. And, when Teen Vogue shuttered, and obviously the landscape of media is changing, this better than anyone. And people were writing and feeling very frustrated about the spaces and places where Black voices and Black women voices in particular can be heard. And I completely understand that. But I also think not everyone's voice is meant to be on a platform.
No, I agree.
Some of us need to be writing in our journals.
Yeah. And keeping it there.
And sit with it there.
Yeah.
And or what I think is even more impactful, write, speak, share in your circles and transform your tribe. It doesn't have to be this grand stage. Everyone is not meant to be a Bad Bunny. We're grateful that Bad Bunny has his place. We're grateful that people elevate to a certain space and place and have these deals and have a platform, and that's a wonderful thing. But everyone is trying to chase that same thing, and that is not meant for everyone. And so then what happens is, what I find with a lot of younger people is that there's a co-opting of thinking that if you're not on a BET, if you're not on, then it doesn't matter. And that's not true.
No, it's not.
Because it really is about what you're doing in your hometown of Newark. What are you doing in your individual spaces? How are you teaching in your community? And I would love to bring that back. Yeah. Because dare I say, when that comes back, we won't be so concerned about the dollars earned and attached to it. And then feel defeated if there isn't a dollar earned or the platform earned and attached to it, that it doesn't matter. It actually matters more what you're doing behind closed doors. And so actually that is what I feel is part of my superpower. I tell people all the time, there are a lot of things that you don't see and that you will never see. There are a lot of things that I do to support and help others that I will never talk about it.
I love that.
It doesn't have to be broadcast. And so I think if we get back to the essence of understanding that our value and our principle is what we're called to, regardless of what space we're in, and we do it anyway. There's the power.
With superpowers comes boundaries, though, as well. So what boundary did you set in your career that changed your peace but may have risked an opportunity?
Oh, those still happen. That's happening every day.
Yeah.
That's happening every day.
Yeah.
a case in point, I was on, with my management team the other day. I have a new show coming out on BET at some point this year that I created.
Hi, family.
Hi. Returning to my roots, because BET was the first network that gave me a deal, like a major deal. I started working with BET in, I want to say 2007.
Okay.
So it was a very, very long time, and they've kept me in the wheelhouse, and I'm super grateful for that. But, I say to my team, like if someone called me, and I need jobs, I will take jobs. I like jobs.
We love
to work if it makes sense. If it makes sense. But there's no way in this world I'm hosting anyone's red carpet. I don't do that. Mm-hmm. Don't call me for that. Don't call me to talk about fashion. Yes, I know fashion, but to ask someone what they're wearing is not of interest to me.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of boundaries and parameters, because, as you evolve also and you become clearer about what that not only internal and inner voice is, but what the calling is, you adjust. And I ask God to guide and order my steps. That also means that if there is an alignment, I'm very happy to say no.
I love that.
Very happy to say no. I'm very happy to offer and suggest others that would be joyful for those opportunities if it's not where I am.
That's wonderful. Before we wrap, we have our last segment. So I have two really good questions. We're going to end here, okay?
Yep.
First one is this. Now, the phrase girl's girl gets used a lot these days. Sometimes authentically, sometimes performatively.
Usually.
Often. What does being a true girl's girl, and I use it in quotations, what does it mean being a true girl's girl to you beyond social media language?
It's what and how you show up when no one is looking. It's whether or not you're saying people's names in a positive light. It's whether or not you're really genuinely happy for people to achieve. It's whether or not you tell her the truth quietly and lovingly.
I love that.
Because some of us need truth.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I think, there's a lot of truths that may be felt and known, and it's not shared in a loving way. And are you doing it with compassion, with care? And and not just me delivering it to someone else. It's who's delivering that same thing to me.
Final one. When young Black women enter media or any space because they've seen you, what do you want them to know before really diving into this? Because you didn't have a blueprint, but now there's many blueprints, and you're one of them.
I did have some allies, though, and shout out to Tia Williams, who was always a sister to me, and we were editors at the same time. Tasha Turner. I had a lot of allies, and there were not many Black women editors, especially at mainstream publications, what they were called what we call general market now. We called mainstream. So language has changed too. Okay. So that's the other thing. When people talk about microaggressions, I said I experienced macroaggressions. That was if we were living in a very different time. But I think my truth is, I think that a lot of people are fascinated with the media industry because people want to be famous. I think that's a problem.
Yeah.
As I shared before, I do think that I don't ever want to discourage someone from their hopes and their dreams. But what I will say this, are you dreaming your dream because it's your dream? Or are you dreaming a dream because the world tells you that this is something that you should aspire to? And I have a lot of nieces. I have 8 godchildren. And I have a lot of nieces. And, when I meet young girls who are telling me that they want to be YouTubers, nothing wrong with that. But is that a dream because you're attached to something that you think it's going to afford you, versus is that really you using your gifts, your talents, and what God has given you to shine in the world?
I love that. Did you have a good time with me today?
You're cute. You're adorable. I love this outfit.
Thank
Let
you.
me tell me about this jumpsuit.
So this is from a brand called, hopefully I don't butcher it. I think it's called Incurman.
Okay.
And it's like a boutique brand that I found.
I love it. I'm a jumpsuit wearer.
I am not into jumpsuits more. The only thing that's annoying, and I think you can attest.
Oh, child, you're going to the bathroom.
Yes. That's the only thing that I do not like.
Wait. And let me just tell you going to the bathroom is one thing, and I'm not even mad at you because you can stand up. We got to go down and
see, but you can't stand up in this. Because if you're at the stall in this, you have to still undo the whole thing. So I literally have to do what you do and go into the stall, unbutton, zip down. Mind you, if I really have to go, it's annoying. So that's the only heart.
Well, it's cute.
Thank you.
It's so cute.
You're cute.
Oh,
You're gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
Folks at home, please make sure you are supporting my girl Tai, please. She's amazing. She's fabulous. And honestly, if you are looking for something or someone to give you good inspirational guidance or wellness, or even if you're going through like perimenopause, which I saw on your platform.
Middle ages, honey, are real.
Yeah. Women, people in general, please tap into her because she's truly someone that you do need to know.